For generations, growing potatoes has followed the same routine. Gardeners dig trenches, bury the seed potatoes deep in the soil, and spend the entire season piling dirt around the plants as they grow. When harvest finally arrives, the shovel comes out again, and the real work begins. Digging through the earth, hoping not to slice the very crop you spent months waiting for. But sometime in the early 20th century, a few gardeners began noticing something strange. Some of the healthiest potato plants weren't growing in carefully dug rows at all. They were appearing in places nobody had prepared, under piles of straw, inside compost heaps, even in forgotten corners of the garden where the soil had never been turned. Those accidental plants often produced surprisingly large harvests, and they were far easier to collect. Over time, a handful of growers started experimenting with this strange pattern, eventually turning it into a quiet method that required almost no digging, almost no weeding, and far less effort than traditional planting. The idea was simple, but the results were hard to ignore. So the question is this: if potatoes seem to thrive without all the digging and labor we're told is necessary, what happens when you grow them the way nature might have intended all along? Well, this will fascinate you. But before we get into it, welcome to Lost Green Lore. If you enjoy this kind of content, you will really help us out if you could like the video and hit that subscribe button. Thank you. Now moving on. Every so often, a potato plant would appear where nobody had intentionally planted one. It might show up in a compost heap behind the shed, in a pile of rotting straw, or in a corner where kitchen scraps had been dumped the year before. These volunteer plants weren't rare. Potatoes sprout easily from leftover tubers, and a single overlooked potato can produce a full plant the following season. What caught people's attention was not that these plants existed. It was how well they grew. Instead of struggling through compacted soil, these volunteer potatoes were rooted in loose organic material, decaying straw, leaves, or compost that had been slowly breaking down for months. Gardeners who dug into those piles often found clusters of large, well-formed tubers sitting just beneath the surface of the organic layer. They were clean, easy to collect, and often surprisingly abundant. Agricultural bulletins from the early 20th century occasionally mentioned similar observations. Potatoes grown in compost heaps or manure piles sometimes produced vigorous plants because the environment remained cool, moist, and well-aerated, conditions known to favor tuber development. The loose structure of organic matter also allowed stolons to spread easily without fighting through heavy soil. At first, these discoveries were treated as curiosities. After all, compost piles weren't considered serious planting areas, but the results kept repeating themselves. Wherever potatoes found a thick layer of organic debris, they seemed to grow with unusual strength. Eventually, a few gardeners began asking a simple question. If potatoes perform so well in piles of decaying plant matter, what would happen if you stopped digging entirely and created those conditions on purpose? That question would lead to one of the most unusual gardening systems ever popularized, developed by someone who had little interest in digging soil at all. Let's go back to the 1940s. There we meet a gardener in Connecticut who began attracting quiet curiosity from the people living around her. Her garden didn't look like the typical vegetable plots most people were used to. There were no neat rows of freshly turned soil, no piles of dirt waiting to be shoveled around plants, and no sign of the seasonal ritual of digging beds every spring. Instead, the entire garden was covered in thick layers of hay. The gardener was Ruth Stout, and she had developed a simple philosophy that went against nearly every gardening rule of her time: stop digging the soil and let organic matter do the work instead. Stout had grown tired of the constant labor that traditional gardening required. Rather than tilling the ground each season, she began covering the soil with a heavy layer of spoiled hay and letting it remain there year after year. The hay slowly broke down, feeding soil organisms and forming a loose, rich surface layer that plants could grow through naturally. Potatoes became one of the crops where this approach produced the most dramatic results. Instead of digging trenches, Stout simply placed seed potatoes directly on the soil surface. Then she covered them with a thick blanket of hay, often 8 inches or more. As the plants grew, the stems pushed up through the mulch, while the developing stolons spread outward beneath it. When harvest time arrived, there was no digging involved. Stout would pull back the hay and collect the potatoes resting near the surface of the soil. She later described this approach in her gardening books, including, How to Have a Green Thumb Without an Aching Back, published in 1955. Her message was simple. A thick mulch layer could replace most of the labor gardeners believed was unavoidable. But the success of this method wasn't just about saving effort. It worked because the environment under that hay blanket matched exactly what a potato plant is built to use. To understand why Ruth Stout's garden worked so well, you have to look closely at what a potato plant is actually doing beneath the surface. Most people think potatoes grow like carrots or beets, roots that swell underground as the plant matures. But botanically, that's not what's happening at all. A potato is not a root, it is a stem tuber, a storage organ that forms on underground stems known as stolons. When a potato plant begins growing, the seed potato sends up shoots toward the sunlight. At the same time, it sends out these thin, horizontal stems beneath the surface. Along each stolon, small nodes begin to swell as the plant channels energy into storage. Those swollen nodes become the potatoes we harvest. For stolons to grow freely, the environment around them matters enormously. Agricultural research has shown that potato tuber formation works best in loose, well-aerated soil that stays relatively cool. When temperatures rise above about 75 degrees Fahrenheit in the soil, the plant slows or even stops producing tubers. When the soil becomes compacted, stolons struggle to extend outward and fewer tubers develop. This is why commercial potato fields often rely on well-prepared, fluffy soil beds and why farmers carefully hill soil around the plants. The goal is to create a dark, loose environment where those underground stems can expand without resistance. But here's the interesting part. A thick layer of organic mulch can create the exact same conditions without turning the soil at all. Inside a deep mulch layer, air spaces remain open between pieces of straw or hay. Moisture is retained, sunlight is blocked, and temperatures stay cooler than bare soil exposed to direct sun. For a potato plant, it's an environment where stolons can spread easily and tubers can form without pushing against compact earth. In other words, the mulch isn't just covering the soil, it's quietly recreating the kind of growing environment potato plants evolved to use in the first place. Which means the real trick isn't digging deeper, it's building that environment deliberately. The process begins with something that feels almost wrong to most gardeners. You do not dig the bed at all. The ground can remain exactly as it is. Grass, weeds, or last season's roots can simply be cut down at the surface. Leaving those roots in place actually benefits the soil. As they decay, they create small channels that earthworms and microorganisms begin to use, gradually improving soil structure over time. Next come the seed potatoes. Instead of burying them several inches deep, they are placed directly on the soil surface, spaced roughly a foot apart. Each potato already contains the energy needed to produce its first shoots, so it does not require a trench to begin growing. Then comes the most important part of the system, the mulch layer. A thick blanket of organic material, traditionally hay or straw, is spread over the potatoes. Gardeners who follow the method carefully often use 8 to 10 inches of loose mulch at the start of the season. That depth matters. The layer blocks sunlight from reaching developing tubers, which prevents them from turning green and producing solanine, a naturally occurring compound that makes potatoes bitter and unsafe to eat. As the plants grow, their stems rise up through the mulch, while the stolons expand quietly beneath it. The organic layer acts like insulation, helping the soil retain moisture and keeping temperatures more stable during hot summer days. Under that blanket, the plant finds something rare in many gardens today: a cool, oxygen-rich space where tubers can form without resistance. And when those conditions are right, the plant begins producing potatoes in places most gardeners never think to look. But there's an important detail modern gardeners must consider before they bring in bales of hay or straw. In Ruth Stout's time, a bale of hay was exactly what it appeared to be: cut grass that had been dried in the sun and stored for livestock. Gardeners could spread it over their beds without giving it a second thought. The hay would slowly break down, feeding soil life while protecting the crops beneath it. Today, that assumption is no longer always safe. Modern pasture management often uses a group of herbicides designed to control broadleaf weeds in grazing fields. Some of the most widely known belong to a class called pyridine carboxylic acid herbicides, including chemicals such as aminopyrrolid, clopyrrolid, and picloram. These compounds are valued by farmers because they are extremely persistent. They remain active in plant material even after the weeds have died. That persistence creates an unexpected problem once the hay leaves the field. Livestock can eat grass treated with these herbicides, and the chemical compounds often pass through the animal's digestive system largely unchanged. The residues can remain active in manure, compost, or even in the dried hay itself. When that material is later used as garden mulch, sensitive crops, especially tomatoes, beans, peppers, and potatoes, may begin showing unusual symptoms. Leaves may curl tightly, stems twist, and growth becomes distorted. To many gardeners, it looks like a disease or virus, but the cause is often residual herbicide contamination in the mulch. University extension programs in several countries now warn gardeners about this exact problem. Because the chemicals break down slowly, contamination can persist in soil for multiple growing seasons. One of the simplest precautions is a small bioassay test. Gardeners sometimes soak a sample of the hay in water and use that water to grow a few bean seedlings. Beans are extremely sensitive to these herbicides. If the seedlings grow normally, the material is likely safe. Once a clean mulch source is secured, the forgotten potato method can work exactly as intended. And when that system is used year after year, something remarkable begins happening beneath the surface of the garden. At first glance, a garden covered in thick mulch may look almost too simple to be doing much beneath the surface. But over time, something quiet and powerful begins happening in the soil below that organic blanket. The transformation usually starts with the smallest workers in the garden, soil organisms. As hay, straw, or shredded leaves slowly decompose, they become food for bacteria and fungi that specialize in breaking down plant material. These microbes begin converting the carbon-rich mulch into humus, the dark, stable organic matter that gives healthy soil its structure. At the same time, earthworms are drawn toward the constant food supply near the surface. Earthworms play a surprisingly important role here. As they feed on decomposing organic matter, they pull fragments of mulch into the soil and leave behind worm castings, a nutrient-rich material known to improve soil fertility and structure. Their burrows also create channels that allow air and water to move more easily through the ground. Over the course of several growing seasons, this process can dramatically change the texture of soil that was once hard or compacted. Agricultural studies have long shown that adding organic matter increases soil aggregation, meaning soil particles begin forming stable clumps rather than packing tightly together. These aggregates improve drainage while still holding moisture, exactly the balance many crops need. Mulch also protects the soil surface from erosion and temperature extremes. Bare soil exposed to summer sun can heat up quickly, but soil covered with organic material tends to stay cooler and more stable throughout the season. The result is a gradual shift. A garden that once required digging and constant soil preparation begins developing the loose, biologically active structure gardeners try to create with tools. Except in this case, the work is being done underground. By late summer, a potato plant begins sending a quiet signal that its work is almost finished. The green leaves that once stood upright start to yellow. Stems lose their firmness and gradually collapse toward the ground. For generations of gardeners, this moment has meant one thing: it's time to bring out the shovel. Now, as we all know, traditional potato harvesting is a careful excavation. The shovel is pushed into the soil a short distance away from the plant, and the gardener lifts the earth, hoping the blade didn't strike the tubers hidden beneath the surface. Anyone who has grown potatoes this way knows the risk. A single misjudged thrust can slice directly through the largest potato in the cluster. But gardens grown under deep mulch tell a very different story at harvest time. Instead of digging, the process begins with a simple motion, pulling back the organic layer that has been protecting the plants all season. Beneath that blanket of hay or straw, the soil surface looks almost untouched. The ground is loose, dark, and filled with earthworm channels created over months of decomposition. And resting right on that surface are the potatoes. Because the tubers developed within the mulch layer rather than deep in compact soil, many of them sit just above the soil line or slightly embedded in the soft earth below. They are usually cleaner than potatoes dug from heavy ground, and they can often be picked up by hand without disturbing the surrounding soil at all. Gardeners who first try this method are often surprised by how simple the harvest feels. What once required digging through dense soil becomes something closer to gathering fruit. The soil remains intact, the mulch continues breaking down, and the garden bed is already halfway prepared for the next growing season. Sometimes the biggest change in gardening isn't a new tool, it's realizing how little digging the soil actually needed in the first place. Quite interesting, right? Anyway, if you tried this forgotten potato method in your own garden, what do you think would surprise you the most? The yield, the easy harvest, or how little work it actually takes? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.